Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup, your one-stop shop for all news West Asia. My name is Esteban Carrillo. I'm the news editor for the Cradle, and as usual, I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, content creator and writer for the Cradle, Karim Shami, and columnist and editor for the Cradle, Sharmin Narwani. And of course, as we start today's show, please make sure to hit that like button as soon as you arrive. It's really, really important to push against the algorithm, get these videos, these streams out to as many people as possible. And of course, I want to thank, we already have a super chat while people were waiting for us to start. From F Chow 6019. Thank you so much for your generosity. And they say an interview suggestion. Helye Dutagi, a young, eloquent Iranian academic, recently saw her on the East is a podcast. I think you guys are already maybe in talks of hopefully having her on, right?
No, in fact, just today we were passing messages back and forth. I saw a video of hers and I thought, my gosh, this girl's very eloquent and is explaining something we don't usually dive deep into. So we already had her on our radar. Thank you so much.
So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Also be on the lookout for a new episode of Rock the Cradle in which Armin talks with Victor Gao. Of course, also go show some love to those interviews. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't. And of course, as usual, just a reminder, in the description below, underneath the video, you can find a link that will take you to our Patreon page where for as little as $5 a month, you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. Help us to stay afloat, to continue bringing you the news as they happen, and of course, above all, to stay independent. So thank you to all of those of you who have already become patrons. And well, today as we start, we again have to start in the White House, where things aren't as rosy as they seem to be. Right? Donald Trump keeps claiming that Iran has no army, has no navy, has no government, they have collapsed, they are obliterated, etc., etc., etc. But today, his counterterrorism chief, and let me actually open because I wanna his tweet. I don't know if you have it by any chance, Karim. His name is Joe Kent. Joe Kent, who up until a few hours ago was the head of the U.S. National Counterterrorism Center, officially resigned earlier today, saying that he cannot in good conscience support the Iran war, and saying very clearly in no uncertain terms, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. The cracks begin to show. We have known for a while, we have seen the reports about the intelligence that said Iran poses not just poses no threat to the U.S., but also had no plans to build a nuclear weapon. And this war is driven entirely by the Israeli lobby, by the Zionist government of Israel as well. And just to add something, to a bit more context about this, earlier today, The Guardian reported that a top UK official took part in the last round of negotiations, indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran in Geneva, and described what Iran proposed as a possible deal as unexpectedly, what was the word that he used? Unexpectedly substantial is what he said, and going actually beyond what had been proposed before in an attempt to avert war. This comes directly from the British government. And yet, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff drag the U.S. right into war, kind of aligning with what Joe Kent is saying here. So what do you guys make about this resignation?
Go ahead.
Well, that's what we've been talking about since even before the war. Trump surrounded himself with Zionists, with people that are pro-Israel, and I think this was like maybe one of the few that were not pro-Israel, and one of the few that worked for his country, for the United States. I don't mean that he's a good guy. Maybe if Iran was weaker than that, he would have said, yes, let's bomb them and occupy them. But this man understands military and understands Iran, and knows that there is no solution with Iran. Iran is not Venezuela or even Syria or other countries that are weak. And if you cut the head of the government, there will be no country or institutions. Iran is different than that, and this guy clearly knew that, and as a consequences maybe of his recommendations or statements, he was fired. So this also means that the cabinet now, or the U.S. government now, first, this means two main things. First, if somebody now wants to oppose Trump, he will be 10 times more afraid, because the result will be Trump maybe firing him, or he would be pressured to resign if his views doesn't align with Trump or with Netanyahu. And second, this also is dangerous, because one sane, maybe, if you can call him sane, one sane person now is not present around
One less
Trump.
sane person, yeah.
One less
to
sane
clarify,
person.
Karim, he quit. We haven't heard that he was fired, but I think your point.
Yeah, I know.
stands in
I
any
said
case.
he might be pressured to resign.
It could be.
Yeah, and if you're in the U.S. government, why would you resign? You know what I mean? Either
Well-
you see something that is terrible that's gonna happen to your country, and you don't want to be part of it, or you were forced to resign.
But let's not forget, during the Gaza genocide, there was a slow but steady stream of U.S. officials who did resign as well.
Yes.
So I suspect these are resignations. It always takes one to kick off the idea. Don't forget, there's potentially liability issues for these people as well. You know, same with the Gaza genocide, liability issues for people in decision-making positions. Right now, I mean, this is unrelated, and I did want to talk about it eventually, but Malaysia just dumped their tariff agreement with Trump. I don't know if y'all heard this.
I haven't seen. But actually, what I wanted to bring up was like, I wonder where Tulsi Gabbard is, because that woman's been missing for a while now.
Yeah, but this is important because, you know, was it the Supreme Court that basically ruled that Trump's tariffs are not legal or constitutional or whatever,
Yes.
right?
That was a few weeks ago. Yes.
But as a result, Malaysia, which is one of like,
Oh yes. They declared them null and void. Null and void.
they declared their tariff agreement with the White House null and void, and there's I think around 15 other countries that have tariff agreements with the White House, and I'm sure it's just going to be a domino effect now, right? So they're grabbing onto legalities. And even though it seems like there's no law and order, no international law, no domestic law, nothing, I think Trump has pushed to a breaking point for the American system and its position globally. And what the Americans usually do is relax back into lawfare. Mm-hmm. And I think for any Democrats that take over the House, Trump is going to be a sitting duck, you know, for lawsuit after lawsuit. So I think for this fellow who resigned today, he's possibly going to crack open Pandora's box on this, and we may see others follow him. But he also says stupid things, like he agreed with the murder of Qasem Soleimani. So I mean, he's not like, you know, a reasonable fellow. But he's obviously seen things. The U.S. is losing. You'll have to watch the Victor Gao interview. This is not an exact comparison, but you know how Mohammed Marandi has very good connections with the Iranian government, but he's not a government spokesperson. He's a person who takes it upon himself to go and speak from the view of Iran. And sometimes he talks, you know, as though he's not representing, but he lays out the Iranian government argument, but then also his own views. And Victor Gao is a similar type of personality. So on all the questions you want to know on whether the Chinese will step into the fray here, what their limits are, what their expectations are, how they're viewing the issues, you got to go to that interview. He hits hard. Yeah.
Charmaine, you brought up Malaysia canceling, and honestly, I just want to read this quote because it's very good. This is Malaysia's investment, trade, and industry minister, Datuk Seri Johari Abdul Ghani, who on Sunday said, about the US-Malaysia agreement on reciprocal trade, it is not on hold. It is no longer there. It's null and void. It's gone. It's gone.
Correct.
And it's very
Correct.
important. Yes, as you say, it's an important.
You know, and now all the other countries are going to say null and void. What are you going to do about it? And the reason they're doing this is, let's be honest, not okay. Certainly the ruling, but the ruling happened a few weeks ago, right? The court ruling in the U.S.
Yeah.
There is a perception that the U.S. is hemorrhaging its hegemonic powers.
Ooh.
All right, and this perception comes from, I mean, the very bad handling of its aggression against Iran, clearly not having targets, clearly losing its eyes and ears, clearly unable to intercept, or defend properly. Victor Gao said that basically Iran rendered the U.S. and Israeli militaries defenseless. And nobody expected this from a global South nation, not even a big power, right? But that perception of Iran is changing, isn't it? And also its handling of the Strait of Hormuz situation. When the Americans have leverage, they take their leverage and they hit people on the head with it. The Iranians have this leverage, but they're responding in a very measured way. Fine, we understand. You want to get your vessels through. We need to make sure this is our waterways, right? We want to make sure that you're not carrying contraband, that you're not part of the aggressive nations, attack on the Islamic Republic, etc. And wheeling and dealing with these various countries, calling up in a very credible and responsible way. So I think this is such a stark difference from the U.S. on Greenland, the U.S. on Canada, the U.S. on Iran, that I think people are setting up and being reminded how to do it the civilized way, as we discussed last night in our podcast.
I wanted to add something, and that was when you said, they're hemorrhaging their hegemony. And because all I could think about when you said that were the images over the past couple of days of the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. It's getting, trashed, essentially. It's getting hit pretty severely. And these are not things that we are used to seeing, And actually, before the show, I don't know if you guys want to get into this now, but we were discussing the situation with the USS Gerald Ford, the biggest aircraft carrier in the world that is now, according to Greek media reports, headed back to the Greek island of Crete to resupply, quote unquote. But we also just found out that the fire, remember the fire in the laundry room that we were talking about last week? It was a fire that raged for 30 hours. They couldn't put it out for 30 hours straight, and it ended up destroying enough of the inside of the Gerald Ford that 600 sailors and crew members have had to sleep on the floor since the fire broke out. This just raises so many questions about the way the U.S. in particular is telling the story of what's happening to their people. And just to add, the Gerald Ford is the same ship that has, the broken toilet system. So on top of everything, now apparently they're headed back to Greece to resupply.
So these guys on the Gerald Ford have been on it for, I think, 11 months straight.
11-month deployment, yeah.
Missing all milestones, all, holiday leave, whatever. And I can imagine that, apparently there's an investigation going on now to see if this fire wasn't set by these crewmen themselves to sort of be able to get off the ship.
The toilet situation was also reported in part as a sabotage, or
Yeah, and not to go to war with Iran. Maybe these guys are something that Trump doesn't.
They've seen the drones in action, or they heard when they fought Yemen. Karim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, first I want to answer F. Shao, her second contribution. She said that do not get impressed by the recent resignations, and that does not mean that they are on our side. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to clarify this. And we have another one also.
Oh, it's also Shao.
Yeah. Would Iran have the time to even get a nuclear weapon together for retaliation in case they were struck with one? Hello, we will answer this. But first, regarding what's happening to the United States Army and equipment, first we have to acknowledge that we're still in a few weeks of the war. if the United States thinks that they are prepared for war against Russia and against China that might last like a year or so, good luck, United States. يعني according to them, which is more impressive maybe for the public, is that they downed 3 airplanes, friendly fire, and according to them, 2 tankers, air tankers, collided in the middle of the sky, which is also terrible. And now they are saying no, the fire couldn't be put down for 30 days. And of course, there's 30 hours, sorry. And of course, there's many of these. That's what I remembered just now. So this is terrible for the United States. And also yesterday there was an emergency landing for airplane, military airplane, refueling airplane in Israel, and all the buzz happened in Tel Aviv, and people were expecting it to crash. So that's what's happening in the first few weeks of the war. According to the officials in the United States, everything is happening from within the army. The Iraqis has nothing to do with it, and Iranians. So if they are truthful, imagine what will happen if they go to a war with like a bigger nation. That's one. Regarding the nuclear weapons, till now, look, I think if Iran decides to make a nuclear bomb, everybody will know. They will not act like North Korea or the Americans and other nations and Pakistan and India that made their weapons secret, because in Iran it's a very sensitive subject because of Islam and because of the fatwa that Khamenei and Khomeini put out, which is preventing Iran to have weapons of mass destruction. This decision can't be made without anybody knowing, because in Iran you have the IRGC, you have the power of the clerics, for instance, for the government, for the presidency. So if Iran decides, I think everybody will know. And Iran is a big country and they have scientists and everything. We are saying on TV regarding missiles, drones, and even the nuclear substances and nuclear facilities are mostly made by Iranians, so they know the how to. They are not like other countries. If for instance you destroy a facility or if you threaten scientists, everything will collapse. Like what happened, for instance, in Syria and for instance in Saudi Arabia and other countries. These countries, they don't have the capability, even if they have the facilities. Iran, they have the capability and they can build facilities and they know how to. So the idea, I'm not a nuclear engineer or expert, but from the people that I watch, they all say that the 60% enrichment can in a few days, in a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks or 10 days, it depends how the Iranians wants to work on it, they can produce up to 10 or 16 nuclear bombs. That's what the experts say. But will Iran do it? I think they need a fatwa, they need like voting, an order. It's not like a US president in the 40s asked scientists to make a bomb and then he take it and throw it to Japan without telling anybody.
Very well put. Very well put. I was just reading a bit more of the Greek report, and they actually do bring up the fact that there is going to be an investigation on whether this fire was caused. So, things aren't looking very rosy, honestly, for the U.S. Army, to say the least. And
its allies, because the UAE just closed its entire airspace. So there was a drone that hit a fuel tank at the airport in Dubai, the international airport, which is like the busiest. I think it's the busiest hub in the world.
Yes.
I mean, there's
Dubai and Heathrow.
Like London, London, and then maybe even Istanbul. But nonetheless, Lufthansa, Air India, British Airways, United Airlines, Virgin Atlantic, a whole slew of airlines canceled or restricted routes to and from Dubai. And apparently the main reason for this is not just incoming projectiles. And don't forget, some of these could well be false flags. And so there's no rationality behind them. But it's the same reason the Strait of Hormuz shipping shipping companies or ships decided not to go is because of insurance. The insurance premiums have just skyrocketed. So this is, I mean, there's so many ramifications for these Iranian actions. It's very interesting, and the American ones and the Israeli ones. And I think most of these have not yet been seen fully. In the fog of war, the deliberate fog of war.
Exactly. And, Donald Trump, he's not having a very good day today. He put out a tweet in which, I don't know if you guys saw, I think CNN yesterday did a little comparison of a speech he gave yesterday in which he kept contradicting, right? He would make one statement and 2 minutes later make a completely different statement in regards to how much help the U.S. may or may not need in reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And today he put out a tweet that is like, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he essentially says, we do not need the help of anyone.
Kareem, can you put it on the screen?
It's on our chat, Karim, if you can find the image. He says, I am not surprised by their actions, speaking about NATO nations, because I always consider NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. This man has no concept of sentence breaks or paragraph breaks. It's just like one single stream of consciousness, just one never-ending run on sentence. It's very difficult to read.
Finishing with, thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump. And then Lindsey Graham, who is a senator for South Carolina, right? And I always wonder, when's the last time this man even spoke about South Carolina? In any case, he seems to only be preoccupied about Israel. And he described speaking with Donald Trump and saying, I have never heard him so angry in my life. Because the Europeans, the NATO nations have all said, thanks, but not thanks, Mr. Trump. We do not want to get involved into this war. I mean, again, for Germany to say this is not a war, it's a pretty big development.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell. I mean, Trump sounds pretty depressed. I imagine all the people who goaded him into the war and sort of like Jedi mind tricked him into the war by saying this is so winnable. This will just elevate your status to like godlike, once you get rid of Iran once and for all. Those people are quiet. They're not taking the flak. Trump is taking the flak from every corner of the globe, and the U.S., for those who are able to criticize. So I can imagine he's angry. All his allies, not a single one, not even Micronesia, right? Isn't it like in the coalition of the Willings? There's
Fiji,
always like
the Seychelles.
Yeah, these islands, So it's kind of crazy. The U.S. does not feel capable of going in alone. Think about it, though, that the U.S. military is flagging, all right, against Iran, but it didn't go in alone. It went in with Israel. So the Israeli and U.S. militaries are flagging against Iran. It's just explosive. It's one of these paradigm changes. When your brain sees it, you can't unsee it, and the world has turned, So what is he going to do? Is he going to, the guy who quit said, it's not too late to reverse course, right? And get us out of this, or you're going to drag us into this quagmire. It's just going to be devastating, right? So it's never too late, but I can imagine those same people who are escaping the criticism, but who are whispering like the devil on Trump's left shoulder, right? Are saying, no, but if you do Harg Island, we can finish it with that one. And it won't be the case. There will be Iranian surprises every step of the way.
It's that mission creep, they call it, right? In the Pentagon, mission creep.
And don't forget all these people. Trump is like, I didn't know they would do this, right? I didn't know that they would attack these Gulf countries. I didn't know they would close the Strait of Hormuz. And then people on social media went and posted Iranian statements and an Iranian letter to the United Nations Security Council way back when saying, this is what we're going to do if anyone launches a war against us. It's all there. And then Trump had to backpedal from that. Well, maybe I knew, but what did he say? What did he just say? This like one sentence thing that was just incredible. Like, it's just a military operation as far as
to me, it's just a military operation. To me, it's just a military operation. And
and he said it was fun. He said it was fun. the other
He's
day.
a psychopath. I mean, honestly, this man's a sociopath.
Yeah.
His economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, also just earlier today was on CNBC, and he was saying that if the war were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy at all. It would hurt consumers, but that's really the last of our concerns right now, says one of Donald Trump's main economic advisors on U.S. television. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. These people are making it up as
He
they
said
go.
consumers are the least of our concern right now.
Yes. Yes, there it is. Then you see the polls, and you wonder what's happening. Karim, do you have any thoughts about any of this?
Yeah, first I want to thank Stronger Biwaz.
Belwas.
Balwaz, he said, just wanted to say thank you for all the great work you guys are doing. What you are doing is very important and appreciated.
Oh, this is
thank you.
a Game of Thrones reference. I was wondering where I had heard that name
Okay.
before.
And also thank you to Piano Man. Look, man, it's the same. We are like walking on the same path. Everything is connected, and one of it is that Trump is lying, and he's surrounding with people that even either they are lying to him or they are playing with him, and it's very clear. Yani there's. I don't know even if he's delusional. Maybe he believes what he say. We don't know what they tell him. Imagine what does Trump know about Iran? What Trump knows about Islam and Shias and how they fight? He needs like hours upon hours for him to understand that. And now he wants to take Cuba, for instance. He said, "I will do with Cuba whatever I want."
What a disgusting statement. Let me
Yeah,
just-
100%. He was happy, and he said it twice. It was not a slip one. And the anchor told him, "No, whatever you want." He said, "Yeah, whatever I want, I will do with it." So this is the man that the whole world is dealing with, and of course, don't forget the statement that will never be forgotten for decades and decades to come, when he said that Iran has Tomahawk missiles and they fired it on the school and killed 200 little girls. How can these people sleep? I don't know.
How can people put up with these
They don't-
statements? Go
They
ahead.
don't see us as humans. They just don't. It's when people left sword fighting and they went to distant gunfire and then a push of a button to kill. There's a bloodlessness about it for them. We've heard so many numbers: 10,000, 100,000, 1 million died. It's just nothing for them. They've become psychopaths.
They've come out as psychopaths, I think, because they've always been psychopaths. I'm actually been I checked Polymarket just now, and one of the top bets right now for geopolitics says Netanyahu out by, and most of the bets are for December 31st. The man has been MIA.
That long away?
I think most people are trying to be conservative about their expectations. A bunch are saying June 30th. Others are saying March 31st. Apparently, somebody just put a $177,000 bet saying that Netanyahu is going to be out by March 31st. I think, Charmaine, you said it yesterday, right? Like, he's just hiding his face. He's literally just hiding from the public view, because many.
Well, if Trump is this angry, according to Lindsey Graham, you think Netanyahu wants to get in those crosshairs and then get blamed and yelled at, etc.? No, I think it's probably best for him to be quiet. Did you see him going around with a coffee cup and greeting people?
Then everybody
was that verifiably in Israel? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, but actually, that brings us to another topic today that has been making the rounds, and that is the assertions by the Israeli military that they have assassinated Iran's national security chairman and advisor to the late supreme leader, Ali Larijani. They claim they killed him today. Larijani, of course, has been a very prominent figure over the past recent months, in particular since the 12-day war last year. And just yesterday, we were discussing his 6-point statement.
He's ubiquitous since the Ali Khamenei was killed. It's Larijani who's speaking largely for the nation. I don't know. We wrote about this a while ago at the Cradle. Does Israel's assassinations policy reap rewards for it? And the conclusion was no. And I think we cited Israeli studies on this itself. I don't know what they think. I mean, maybe for a country of 9 million people, they don't understand. A country of 92 million people that has been in full throttle revolutionary spirit for the last 47 years. There's an endless supply of devout, dedicated, brave, clever leaders. And we're talking about bringing the second generation in, right? They've seen this, and yet they do this. I don't think they do it for any strategic value anymore. They just, like Trump, need to score some wins. And this is the easy win for them, right? Killing is their go-to.
It comes naturally. It comes very naturally. So
By
yeah,
the way, fuel oil prices in Singapore just hit $140 per barrel.
interesting. Karim, have you heard anything about Larijani? Because what we know is that the Iranian government has yet to really even say anything about this.
No, but to be honest, يعني, it's not that very far for them to assassinate him. The axis of resistance, they take zero measures in security, and usually when Israel claims that they assassinated a person, I believe them. يعني.
Karim, succinct, straight to the point. I love it. Please make sure to hit that like button, everyone who's here. I
I want to add something. I don't fully agree with Sharmeen because the assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah created a big gap. I don't think other assassinations had this impact. The first one that had a big impact is Qasim Soleimani, General Qasim Soleimani, and Hassan Nasrallah. These two persons,
Yeah, I was talking about Iran specifically because, I mean, even the killing of Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes had a big impact in Iraq, as far as I'm concerned, even more than Soleimani's in Iran. So no, I'm talking about Iran, people who can command and lead a war, for instance. There's no short supply of that. There's no short supply of people who've been trying to run for president for a long time, who have similar thinking. I would argue that Ali Khamenei was a moderate in the same way that Vladimir Putin is a moderate in Russia. People don't seem to know this. There's a lot of things people have said now on our interview shows and in the podcast that actually interview shows that by doing these assassinations, the Israelis have guaranteed not just a response, but unleashing those elements that have railed against Iran's strategic patience and, not an eye for an eye kind of, and so there are plenty of those. And even those who've been moderate in Iran are incensed by the insensitivity, the craziness of this campaign, hitting leaders, hitting spiritual leaders, hitting civilian targets, hitting populations amassed on the streets every night, 18 nights now in a row. Okay, Iranian populations are on the streets at night rallying behind their war cause, not against the government, but against the U.S. and Israel.
Exactly. And the images, as you said, I mean, this is 18 nights straight. This is, I cannot recall a time in which we have seen something similar. I mean, maybe the Yemenis when they were in the middle of the war, but even then, I think it was mostly on Fridays. I want to kind of go back just for a bit to the Guardian report that I mentioned earlier about what was put on the table by Iran's negotiating team on the last round of negotiations, which happened just a couple of days before this war started. The UK team expressed surprise by just how much Iran was willing, I guess, to commit to. And, on the other hand, you had Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who are described, and I've seen this, across the board, described as essentially ignorant on the nuclear issue, being the ones that dragged Trump into war. And in particular, they say that they relied on the knowledge, or I guess on the opinion of IAEA head Rafael Grossi, who we know wants to be the head of the UN next. So, I think this is something that is not really being discussed about, just how willing Iran was to make a deal back in the Geneva talks, and just how badly the United States screwed up that path.
You know what, man? I want to comment over something and over this also regarding assassinations. There's an important an important thing that's happening now, because now it's different than before. We always say that one of the problems, at least according to me, is that everything that happened in the region was initiated after October 7 by the Israelis. So the acts of resistance was not prepared, and whatever Israel does, they are prepared. For instance, if they go assassinate or target a new place, they are prepared for the retaliation. But for instance, the other side didn't know that what will happen, so they were not prepared. So now what's happening is that assassination is not like before, meaning that they already assassinated all the heads. Any person that they will assassinate now is less than the one before him. If you
Yes.
know, I understand what I am
Makes sense, yes.
saying. And what's happening now, they are assassinating in the middle of the war. There is no retaliation in the middle of the war for assassinations. There is escalation. The escalation will remain there, meaning that what happened yesterday in Iraq, the Israelis, nobody claimed responsibility. The Israelis assassinated a very prominent figure in the MPMU, Hashd al-Shabi of Iraq. Till now, Hashd al-Shabi, in 24 hours, they fired what they used to fire in 1 week. And it's going on. And they put statement that this is what they were, they said that's what we are gonna do till now, from now on. Meaning they didn't retaliate, they escalated their firepower. And the same applies on Iran. If they assassinate somebody in Iran, I don't think they will retaliate and that's it. No, they will walk in the escalation ladder. So, meaning, for instance, if Iran fires, let's say, 10 missiles, from now on they will start to maybe fire 15. If they didn't target, for instance, airports, they will start to target airports from now on. Something like that. I'm just giving an analogy so people will understand the difference between old assassinations and the current assassinations that they are happening.
Very important.
And regarding the topic, we were talking about
it was the nuclear talks.
Nuclear talks. Yeah, look, I will talk. I hope people will understand me. In geopolitics and in pure politics, till now, I think what happened, despite if we want not to consider the casualties, I think this is better for Iran in the future. This war will keep the sovereignty of Iran. This war will keep Iran in nuclear, and this war will have a better future for Iran if everything continues like this. If Iran handed over everything, as the Omanis said, for instance, Iran would have lost part of its sovereignty and decades upon decades of know-how in nuclear energy.
Exactly. I think. There's a line here in this report. In particular, is a diplomat who says that they regarded Witkoff and Kushner as Israeli assets. It's very important, to understand.
They are.
They exactly. If there were any doubts left, they of course are, after dragging.
He was in the Israeli army.
Kushner or Witkoff?
Yeah, Kushner.
By the way, I wanted to bring up something. The IRGC has just confirmed the death of Basij commander Major General Gholam Reza Soleimani, who Israel claimed they assassinated alongside Ali Larijani. So we might just be waiting for confirmation now of his death. But I think what you brought up a few minutes ago, Karim, is also very important. You talked about the assassination of the Kataib Hezbollah commander in Iraq, and how the Iraqi militias have essentially just expanded their campaign, and in particular, like I said, against the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, but also Victoria base in Iraq has been getting attacked relentlessly over the past. I honestly lost count of the days at this point, but it's meanwhile the battles are still raging in the south of Lebanon, where we hear reports of the serious incidents, as they like to call them, the Israeli military, about essentially, well, the losses they continue to face when confronting Hezbollah.
Yeah. So what's happening in the south is everything till now is what we expected is happening, meaning the Israelis is trying to enter from various villages. They enter like for a few kilometers or in some cases a few hundreds of meters. They sit there and then they retreat. And on the other hand, Hezbollah is trying to push them out. And sometimes, according to Hezbollah and people close to Hezbollah intentionally allow the Israelis to come in so they can target them, or they can detonate the booby traps that they put. Till now, there is no difference between the operation that the Israelis initiated from their ground forces in 2006 and 2024 and this year also. It's the same tactics, same villages. Of course, same villages. Lebanon is very small. And same battles, Battle of Khiam, Marun al-Ras, or they are trying to enter south of Bint Jbel. All what's happening is still maybe both sides, maybe they are still assessing the power of the other, and especially the Israelis, because of course the Israelis were stunned that Hezbollah still has all of its capability, and they are fighting better than they did 2 years ago, which is astonishing to the enemies and to the allies of Hezbollah and their backers.
Speaking of Lebanon again, maybe we should talk about this Reuters report, Reuters exclusive, which
sorry, I've had laugh.
You can take it with a pinch of salt. It could be true. It could be not true at all. So Reuters is saying that the U.S. is encouraging Syrian action against Hezbollah. Damascus is hesitant, sources say. We talked about this right here at the Cradles podcast. We said, it's kind of like throwing mud wherever you can and hoping some of it sticks, right? Mm-hmm. If they're losing badly with Iran, they will set off fires in the Levant. Mm-hmm. It's kind of why Israel's attacking Lebanon out of nowhere, right?
I mean, sorry, what I wanted to say was just, at this point, I'm sure Julani in Damascus is kind of missing those air defenses that Israel destroyed his first week after seizing power. Because apparently that's his fear, right? That he would essentially open up his forces to be struck by Iranian missiles and drones.
You know what? Syrians are very weak, and I will say it. Maybe people will attack me, but of course, I'm 100% sure because I'm following Syria since long. The people that are in power and the fighters and the head of everything in Syria, they have low IQ. It's a known thing, I'm not revealing something or giving my opinion.
For God's sakes.
Yes, Sharmeen, tell me.
You
mean you're telling me you have a high IQ if you believe that if you detonate yourself in crowded places with Muslims, you will go to Jannah?
No. I'm just, first of all, Syrians in general. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Syrians in general.
No, I said people in power.
You have to realize that the people who are in power now, they could have been killed a million times in the field. These are the survivors, okay? They have worked their way through. So it's not about intelligence. It's about street smarts and opportunism, etc. But go ahead. I thought you were talking about all Syrians.
Yeah, so these people, I'm saying that because those people might really enter to Lebanon. Yeah, the armies, Takfiris, we saw them where they did in the Rose and to and the Sahel and to the Kurds. Who do you think will enter Lebanon? Like well-dressed Syrian soldier. These guys will enter. Everybody can search
the Uyghurs
and see their how they look and how they act and their mentality. So these people are weak militarily, but they have a very dangerous thing that they can do is that they can blow up themselves up. They can be sent to camps in Lebanon. They can be sent to where people are. Where people were displaced and sitting down, and they can detonate themselves. This is the danger of these people, and hopefully Hezbollah will calm down with them, even if you have to bribe them for them not to enter now, because we don't benefit from them anything, and يعني no need to fight them at this time, and you're fighting Israel.
Earlier as we started this show, I said the U.S. is it's alone in trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Well, the diplomatic advisor to the UAE president Anwar Gargash has just said that the UAE could join the international effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Hopefully they will, because this decision will not weaken Iran, not even 0.5%, but it will weaken them and send them back tens of years
back to the Bedouin tribes.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, like
you won't believe everybody is happy that UAE is being bombed. And you don't, I know, in the Arab media and in social media, you won't imagine everybody. And for instance, how you see the videos. I am happy with UAE, what's happening in the UAE. I don't mean you, Saudi Arabia, for instance, if somebody loves Saudi Arabia. Or Qatar, okay, this base is being targeted, but I am happy of what's happening in UAE. Everybody, nobody likes UAE. What they did in Sudan, Libya, and other places, and they didn't even hide it. In politics or in the politics of the region, Saudi Arabia is far more smarter. You might sit with an Arab to explain for him, and he will try to explain for you why Saudi Arabia is good for our region, for instance, but you will never see an Arab, except if he's with the UAE regime, like arguing with you why UAE is a good country.
I think it's funny that you bring that up, because I have seen those reactions. Nobody seems to be crying too much for the UAE. So it would be interesting if they join these, which, by the way, the situation with the Strait of Hormuz, we already mentioned that the oil prices, the gas prices in the U.S. are rising pretty rapidly. I think diesel prices already reached $5 a gallon. I'm trying to check right now. They're still around 3.70 per gallon for gasoline. That's the national average. But like the Iranian officials have said, the Strait of Hormuz is close to our enemies. We have seen Pakistani ships cross. We have seen Indian ships cross. And we know, and this is actually something we haven't brought up here in our discussions in the podcast yet, that Iran is still exporting as much oil, if not more, than they did before the start of the war. So again, it begs the question, what is the plan here for the U.S.? And every day seems more likely that it is boots on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I don't know if we have a little time, Sharmeen and Esteban. I would love to read quotes that I prepared from Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim, who was the Prime Minister of Qatar. And usually he's a very important person in the Gulf, and usually he reflects the mentality of Qatar in particular and the Gulf in general.
Before you use your
yes.
Let me read just one quote from Donald Trump that I just saw, and it's in regarding to the oil prices. This is what the U.S. president has to say: as soon as that war's over, which will be soon, your prices are going to drop like a rock. Just you watch. President Donald J. Trump. Go ahead, Karim, please.
Yeah, and also we have a very important question, but unfortunately, this question can be answered now because it's like there's many answers for it, and I might go into like philosophy. So the question is, why are the Levant Arabs so divided? There is no simple answer or answer that everybody agrees on. But for me, I know why. Hopefully, in a Q&A or a private video on our Patreons, we will answer this question.
That would be a great one. Yeah.
So regarding Hamad bin Jassim, who is a prominent Gulf politician, and he used to be the Prime Minister of Qatar, and usually he's one of the few in our Arab world, and specifically in the Gulf, who you can say speaks the truth, or he doesn't hide things when he's asked. So he said that we don't hear from Netanyahu, who has involved the United States, the Gulf, and Iran in this war. That's one. And also regarding Plan B, he said the Gulf countries warned President Trump that war would lead to a disaster. And the war broke out without any calculations or Plan B. This also confirms what you said, Esteban. Really, Trump went to war. He thought that Iran will kneel in the first week, and they had planned for this They didn't have a plan if Iran didn't surrender in the first week or first of 2 weeks. So this is very important, people, to understand what's happening and why all these like contradicting statements that are coming from the White House and from Trump, and then the White House should correct to Trump, and Trump said, then corrects the White House. It's crazy. Also, he said anyone who believes in a decisive outcome in this war is mistaken. Iran will never and will not surrender to America and Israel. Iran will engage in a war of attrition from which everyone will suffer, but it has nothing to lose, referring to Iran. And he said also, I feel despair towards the official Arab system, but we can start within the Gulf system. And also he ends by saying, the form of negotiation is linked to the Strait of Hormuz. Will it be opened militarily or no? So the concern now is all about Strait of Hormuz. Of course, they don't care who is dying and what's happening. They want to open the Strait of Hormuz. The question is, will it be through negotiations or through sheer military power? And also the last comment is very important also. People also will understand what's happening in the Gulf or what will happen in the future. He said, my personal opinion is that the Gulf should not respond to Iran and just focus on repelling the aggression. And that's what they are currently doing, meaning that if a drone going to a US base, the Saudi Arabian army will come and attack it. If a missile on its way to Israel, the Jordanians will use their air fighters to down it. And that's what's happening.
Well put, well put.
Bin Jassim was also, buggered Syria. Let's not forget, before he kind of got sidelined. He's not in a decision-making position now, so he's free to opine. And he was a very central figure and leader and policymaker in Qatar for a very long time. So I want to, Kenny, I put something in the group, if you could put it up. It's a post by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi just 2 hours ago. It's just, talk about someone who can't read a room, okay? This man is just awful at reading a room. Spoke with my brother, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, okay, Mohammed bin Zayed, who everybody in the Arab world hates. This is why they're cheering on when the UAE gets hit. Right? So he does this, and we agreed on the importance of ensuring safe and free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. Reiterated India's strong condemnation of all attacks on the UAE that have resulted in loss of innocent lives and damage to civilian infrastructure. Modi does realize that Iran allowed, was it 2 Indian ships, tankers, to traverse the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know this man's brain. I don't understand it. If you're playing both sides, keep at least one side hidden. Do you know? He's just, you know what? He reminds me
does that.
Of a colonized native who is of that age group that always kind of quasi worships the white man. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a 20th century fellow. All right. Not that Mohammed bin Zayed is a white man, but still he MBZ falls within the structures that the Western world have created. He is their front man in this region. Like Modi's their front man there, and Bolsonaro was front man there, and Milei is their front man here. And here is Modi, just the guy never fails to disgust. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but there's another there's another view of what's happening, Sharmeen. I usually I don't say that India, like in any shape or form, is similar to Lebanon, but they have something similar to Lebanon, and it's very strong resemblances that I see in India and Lebanon. That both we have like very poor and failed governments and corruption, and the only thing that our politicians, and their politicians that care of are the people abroad, because in Lebanon, Lebanese fails to generate money, and Indians in India fail to generate money. So they are concerned of the expat and concerned for the people that are working abroad. And we have to acknowledge that there is 5 million Indians in the UAE, and if we want to calculate the whole region, there is like more than 15 or 18 million Indians working in the region. So I think they are afraid of them like kicking them out or whatever happens there. So I understand what Modi is saying, and he was very clear, because one day before the war, he went and kissed and made strategic alliance with Netanyahu. What I don't understand is why Iran allowed Indian ships to pass unless these Indian ships have Iranian oil in them.
Or maybe they paid in yuan. Could be.
Yeah. So your point is right, but it's, let's say 1 million to 5 million Indians here, and then 1.4 billion Indians in India who need oil and gas. It's not even, and it's not like the Emiratis need the Indian workers to stay in the UAE. It's not, because a lot of people are leaving. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I agree the point you made, but I don't think it's at all relevant if you balance the scales. So I find him completely not sensitive to the geopolitical fires he's setting off. And Karim, the contradictions, like an Erdogan, for instance.
To Karim's point, just because this piqued my interest, India received $45.1 billion in remittances from GCC countries in the fiscal year 2023-2024, which is 38% of the country's total remittance inflow. So it is actually
that's
a pretty significant amount. That's what I thought you were talking about, Karim. Because that's what we have seen in the GCC nations.
Yeah, naturally, India will align itself with the GCC and with Israel. They don't cover this. For me, why Iran made these ships pass unless they have Iranian oil in them? It's very clear that India will be a hostile country against Iran in this war, and they clearly said it live on TV more than once. I have 4 videos of generals, Indian generals, who are saying after Iran, we all will unite against Pakistan and we will join, and we are in this war with Israel against Iran. 4 generals went on live TV in India and said the same exact thing.
So I wasn't saying that isn't the case. I'm saying in the idea that India has no choice but to act that way is false. There are countries that will maintain relations with both sides in this war. And this is not a war between the Gulf and Iran. Let's remember, it's a war between the US/Israel against Iran. And Iran is retaliating against US and Israeli military assets and financial assets in retaliation for their strikes, like, right? In the Gulf countries, because there are no known US and Israeli financial and military assets in Iran, right? The thing is, as we spoke with Victor Gao today, you can take a position of neutrality and therefore be able to shape a solution, right? For India to take this position, India is a principal partner with the Russians and Iranians on the INSTUC, the International North-South Transportation Corridor. This is a very, very important north-south corridor that traverses Asia. It's not insignificant. It's already there and happening. India was a partner with Iran in the Chabahar port, in competition, if you like, with the Chinese Pakistani port in Gwadar, right? So India has bought a lot of fuel from Iran. India is a fuel poor country and Iran is a fuel rich country. India and Iran have had relations forever. It is this Indian Prime Minister and his political party and the anti-Muslim sentiments he's allowed to bloom under his governance. Okay. It's this Indian prime minister who has moved away from the non-aligned status that India always tried to promote for itself globally, right? Unlike the opposition party, the Congress party. It is this man who has chosen to take this approach, which is why I mocked his tweet. He still doesn't understand how to play the game best. That's all I'm saying. He has made his bed. He will lie in it. And I'm sure the Iranians, like the Russians, have only so much stomach for this man's flip-flopping, right? Because don't forget, Putin went to Delhi and there was this big fanfare and there were these, the two rode in a car together and Indians put it to song, okay, put their car right to song. And Putin says he will always, India is a vital partner. We will always sell oil to this country. And then what happens? The Americans say, no, India, you can't sell oil to Russia. You can't buy oil from Russia or gas from Russia. And so India then reneged and then came back a few weeks, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, when the Iran war started, right? The war against Iran started, Strait of Hormuz gets closed. And all of a sudden, India is going to Russia saying, we need energy. And Russia says, okay, but at a premium this time. I'm saying this man is part of...
Too much on India, I think. Continue.
This man is part of what's wrong in the world. He is part of the, if you want to call it Epstein class, or the neoliberal warlords, right? The ones who are in bed with corporate, the billionaires in their own countries, who disregard the needs of the consumer. As you were saying earlier, Trump or whoever said about consumers not my priority right now. These are the people who have no connection to their populations, but are running the world and running it down the toilet, So I'm just highlighting that Modi has learned nothing. He is one of these creatures like an Erdogan, who plays both sides and at the end will be left with no friends, in my view.
Last comment about this. Modi was elected 3 consecutive times and his approval rating is from above 70%. So I think this is the direction of India, not one person. He's not Sisi. So
no, but Modi's election also. I mean, if you look at in Turkey as well, Erdogan's been elected so many times now, re-elected, right? But a lot of the reason, his popularity has lessened. But as the economic situation in Turkey has gotten really bad, but the opposition draws nobody. In election after election in Turkey, it's like, honestly, they put it, the worst opposition figures ever, like people who've been there forever, old guys who've been there forever. And then, of course, now Erdogan is arresting anyone young and charismatic, like the mayor, is it the mayor of Istanbul?
Imamoglu.
Who would beat him in the polls. So this is how these tyrants work. And Modi has used really strong anti-Muslim sentiment to sort of like the Israelis. Israelis don't think rationally now. They're just so anti-Arab right now. They don't care. They'll kill children, right? That's what Modi's done to India. He's transfixed them in a internal propaganda thing, created an enemy so big and so scary. They viscerally hate, many of these people viscerally hate Muslims, viscerally hate China. That needn't be. So
I have a question for you guys, actually, since we've gotten so deep into the India issue, and it is, of course, what's happening between Pakistan and Afghanistan, because that war is raging as well. Last night, at least 400 people were killed in what the Taliban says was an airstrike on an addiction hospital, an absolute massacre. They're calling it, a crime against humanity. Pakistan has said, we didn't do it. It wasn't us. I don't really, unfortunately, because of everything else that's happening, I don't really have a reading on the situation between Afghanistan and Pakistan. But of course, given the proximity that the two nations have to Iran, and of course, considering everything you guys just described about the situation in India, I mean, where is that heading? Do you guys have any opinions or any ideas of where that is actually headed toward?
I honestly, just like you, I don't really know what's going on. I was thinking today that we should reach out to our Pakistani correspondent to ask him why now, etc. Just, I would say that the world is on fire. It was on fire before this war. It has, for me, it started with the Syrian war and it just spread, and it was one fire after another, usually lit by the same, the usual suspects, and everyone's sort of going for opportunity now, or some countries are jumping at windows of opportunity now. I don't know the situation, but I do want to, and Karim doesn't either, and so if I could just skip on to, because in our lovely viewers are talking about Province Sauni, a Force magazine, and saying Charmaine never explained why that interview never happened. I don't actually know why it didn't happen, but guess what? I am interviewing Province Sauni tomorrow. It's happening.
Bravo.
We never let up here at the cradle. Resistance all the way. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah.
If not, third time lucky, but we will bring that to you tomorrow. Again, I urge you to watch the fantastic interview with Victor Gao today, because you will then be hearing what the Chinese think, and then tomorrow what the Indians think, and these kind of people are on the same page. There shouldn't be that much difference between India and China, or India and Pakistan. It is the leaders, who are very tightly connected to the West, who are constantly dragging us back into conflict or keeping us in conflict. It is a driving purpose of the Americans to make sure India and Pakistan never agree, and North and South Korea never agree on a solution. Those two are the main ones, but plenty of other fires elsewhere as well. And Syria and Lebanon is the newest one, according to Reuters, that the Americans are trying to light a fire under.
You want to say something, Esteban?
I do, but I want to go completely off the road here. So if you have something about what we were just discussing, please go ahead.
First, I want to thank Schiffer Pro. He said it's our own fault, talking, I think, about the Iranians for letting India into our Chabahar port for a few shekels. I'm not Iranian, but I should agree. So regarding what Charmaine was saying, I think, unfortunately, in not few places, in many places in our region, we already passed that. It's already, I think, too late. I think we need generation upon generation of a new education system and new media and new leaders. So these countries or these people in these countries will be friendly again, because what the West did and what the Israelis did in this region is so huge that the hatred is embedded inside the people since they are born. And for instance,
unfortunately,
it's very, very hard for like a person with Al-Sharia to agree or to be friendly with a person who's with Hezbollah, or a person that is, for instance, from East Libya to be friend with a person with West Libya. Why? Because the conflicts went too deep and too far, and it took decades and decades, that it's now very common to see like a person from East Libya, for instance, parts of his family were killed from the western side and vice versa. And the same apply inside some countries. Countries in Lebanon, for instance. Me, personally, I will never be friendly with a person with Kataib or Lebanese forces, because we know their agenda. Their agenda is to destroy everybody except them. So I think what has happened is very severe, and it will take upon decades. And unless the United States and their allies are still influencing this region, we will not prosper. After hopefully the United States is forced to leave this region, we have to be rational and we have to educate the new generation so we can live good together again.
That is why it's so important to support spaces such as the Cradle. Please, please, if you are able, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month. My comment was just gonna be because Charmaine said something about how wars are raging everywhere, right? Like fighting is raging everywhere. And today, the Colombian president Gustavo Petro said that they have recorded attacks coming from the Ecuadorian side of the border. And of course, I have seen people here in the comments already talk about this over the past few days. As you know, there are US troops currently present in Ecuador. There's been a deployment of troops. We know the threats against Cuba. We know what they did on Venezuela. And we know that the plan is to control the entirety of the Western Hemisphere. And when the Iran war comes to an end, and Donald Trump has to take it out, has to accept the fact that he made a horrible mistake, well, he's going to take it out on that side of the world. And wars are raging in East Asia, wars are raging in Central Asia, wars are raging in West Asia, in Europe, and now soon enough we're going to be seeing some wars rage in Latin America as well. So please, again, just you have something, Karim?
No, because before you close, Esteban, we have a big super chat. If you can read it before closing, I will put it on the screen.
Thank you so much. Oh, F. Chow, again, for a good thing, insight into Pakistan and its tactics, do consider Aman Ullah Tariq, host of the Eon podcast, who is very knowledgeable and eloquent, but admittedly needs to be redirected now and then, as he can go on. Too many details. Doesn't that describe all of us at the end of the day? So thank you very much. Also, thank you.
Can I mention one more thing? Cosmo JPO asks, I have a 2-part longer question to ask. How do I submit that? Just to let you folks know again that our Patreons get to send us questions. And then every few weeks, if there are a lot of questions, it can happen every week in a private for Patreons only section. We all come on and answer their questions. So that is the way you can do that.
Exactly. So you can send those questions if you become a patron. We have another super chat. I don't know if you put it on screen, Karim. Thank you so much, Empire. We are. What was I going to say? As far as the questions come, please just make sure to just keep them concise, because it makes it so much easier for the discussion. But send anything that is in your mind. If you're a Patreon, of course, you will be part of that Q&A. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us today. Just make sure to hit that like button as soon as possible. Please, if you haven't yet, to leave a comment as well after this video is over. Just make sure to leave a comment underneath. I know Charmaine, Karim, and myself, as well as Sima, love reading those comments. We're always talking about them afterwards. Yeah. So please make sure to do that, because it also helps with the YouTube algorithm to get this video out to more viewers. And as I said just a couple of minutes ago, if you can become a patron, please consider it for as little as $5 a month to keep the Cradle here alive and well, and of course independent as we like to be. Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you to our patrons, of course, and thank you to Karim and Charmaine for joining us.
Thank you all, and thank you for the last super chat from Empire. We are he's just saying or informing our viewers that Israel has the capability to drop weapons, nuclear weapons, through its F-15I aircraft. Bye. See you. I forgot to put our Patreons. I'm so sorry. These are our Patreons, beloved Patreons. Thank you all, of course. And every day I read your messages, and I try to answer as much as I can. And sometimes you make it difficult for me. You ask very heavy, difficult questions that I sometimes have to go and research and come back to answer.
We have to save those for the Patreon-only sections that we do. Or
usually when they ask a question under a video, it's different than when they ask it privately, So thank you all. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
West Asia is always on the map, but rarely in its own voice. This region has been narrated by others for far too long. That's why the Cradle exists, to report from the region, not to speak over it.
Together, the United States...
To tell stories with depth, precision, and no editorial leash. Because West Asia is more than just a theater of war. It's the corridor between continents, the energy artery of the world, the cradle of civilization. We don't take government orders. We don't serve corporate boards. We serve clarity, rarity, and rawness, no matter the risk. So if you believe this region deserves better than spin, support the people doing the legwork. Donate. Keep the cradle independent.